Hello, I'm Amy White and I'm an employment solicitor with Recruitment. Today we're going to have a think about the recruitment process, something all employers will have to engage with at one time or another. And because it can be a costly and time-consuming exercise, it's important to get it right first time. The first thing to do is to identify the vacancy you're trying to fill. It might have arisen because somebody's left your employment or because of a restructuring you've undertaken. Whatever the case might be, you need to think about how you're going to engage the person that will fulfill the vacancy. Will they be employed, self-employed, or perhaps a worker? The important thing is not to impose a label on a relationship that doesn't reflect the reality, so think carefully about how you're going to engage the successful candidate. You also need to think about the nature of the role. Will it be part-time or full-time? Will the contract be indefinite or fixed term? Might there be any scope for job sharing or working from home, for instance? Once you've identified the vacancy, you need to turn your mind to what the role will entail and what qualities the successful candidate will need to possess. This is a really useful step because it focuses the mind and ensures that you approach the recruitment exercise objectively. Start by drawing up the job description, where you'll set out the tasks the role will entail. Be sure not to include anything irrelevant, because that could put a perfectly good applicant off applying. In terms of the person specification, you'll be setting out the skills, experience, qualification and qualities the successful candidate will need to possess. Make sure what you include is necessary and avoid being discriminatory. By way of example, don't specify certain GCSEs when an equivalent level of skill or experience might suffice just as well. Once you've prepared the job description and the person specification, you'll move on to drafting your advertisement. Some people like to advertise internally, which is fine, but it will restrict the diversity of the pool you're recruiting from. If you're advertising it externally, you should be seeking to access the widest pool of people possible. Don't, for example, just advertise on the internet, because that will restrict the pool you're accessing. Whichever way you decide to advertise, make sure you bring the vacancy to the attention of people who might be absent from your business. For example, those on maternity leave or long-term sick leave. Take care when you're drafting the terms of the advertisement. Again, avoid discriminatory language. If you're seeking waiting staff, don't fall into the trap of looking for waitresses. The selection process you use will probably be guided by the size of your organisation and the resources you have available. It might involve interviews, selection assessments, or even tests. Whichever method you use, it's best to approach things in an objective and fair way. In terms of shortlisting, that will involve using a panel rather than relying on one individual. That helps to avoid highly subjective decisions being made. Similarly, where interviewing is concerned, if you can use a panel rather than a sole manager, you're going to avoid subjective decisions and be more objective in your recruitment. In terms of running an interview process, think carefully about the questions you're going to ask and be consistent between the candidates. Be guided by the job description and person specification you prepared and the application form the candidate submitted. Avoid asking irrelevant questions, particularly if they relate to the protected characteristics. Don't, for example, ask whether a candidate is planning on starting a family anytime soon. Hopefully, once you've completed your selection process, you'll have found the perfect candidate and you'll want to make an offer of employment to them. That offer should set out the key terms of their employment, such as their salary and their holiday entitlement. You might want to make the offer conditional on certain things, such as receipt of satisfactory references or perhaps confirmation of the right to work in the UK. So as you can see, there are a range of things to think about when carrying out a recruitment exercise. The key thing is to be objective and fair and to avoid making discriminatory decisions. A good way of achieving that is to ensure that anyone that carries out recruitment within your organisation has been trained, and also to keep a paper trail of the recruitment process itself so that you can defend yourself if your decisions are ever challenged. It's also really important to make sure that your recruitment process is in line with the GDPR, which came into force on the 25th of May. Have a think, for example, about what you do with the personal data you collect during a recruitment exercise and how long you keep it for. As always, if you want any assistance with running a recruitment exercise or with any other aspect of HR or employment law, please don't hesitate to contact the employment team at Recruitment.